So we are back from executive session, and I also, when we opened the meeting, I forgot to note, we are joined today by committee members, Councilmember Sergio Adams, Councilmember Derek Johnson, Common Council President Corey Ellis, Council Member Kelly Kimbrough, Councilmember Tom Hoey, and Councilmember Jack Flynn, as well as our staff, Jake Eastland, Brian Jimenez, Alyssa Kamara, and Shaniqua Jackson. During executive session, we made a motion to accept all amendments to our resolution. So the resolution now reads as forward. Those records shall include personnel files, performance evaluation, payroll records, schedule software reports, disciplinary actions and arbitration decisions, counseling requests, administrative data, work assignments, overtime signups and assignments, communications regarding work and overtime assignments, conference and call logs of the named employees and their direct supervisors for any work-related calls on any device, any written or electronic correspondences of a listed employee or their supervisors that mention the employee, incident and investigation reports related filed pertaining to the named employees and their immediate supervisors, collective bargaining agreements, exit interviews, financial disclosure forms, and that is the end of the exhaustive list. Do I have a motion to accept the resolution as amended?
Accept the motion as amended.
Do I have a second? Motion made by Councilmember Adams, seconded by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstained? Motion passes. And then do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second? Motion made by Councilmember Adams and seconded by Councilmember Johnson. Thank you.
Okay, forward it to him. I'm not gonna forward that. Okay.
But yeah, you know, copy of
Yeah.
I mean, oh, Shaniqua, will you want first since we got Thompson? We'll do first since we got Thompson.
Yeah.
And then,
Did you like Joyce said that she first?
she's not locked in.
might have been one of the weird spots.
Perfect. Okay, can members take their seats so we can get started? Okay, everyone, are we? Are we live? Yeah. Okay, welcome everyone to the Monday, October 7th caucus and work session of the Albany Common Council. It's our work session prior to our regular meeting. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Adams.
Present.
Anani. Valorant.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Farrell.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Frederick. Hoey.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Keegan.
Here.
Kimbrough.
Here.
Love. Robinson.
Here.
Romero. Zamer. 10 present, 5 absent.
Thank you. So jump into the agenda. So for approval of minutes from a previous meeting, I'll be offering the September 16th meeting minutes for approval. Okay, then we have no local laws. So on to ordinances introduced. Ordinance by Ms. Frederick, 28-101-24. for introduction. That will be a referral to the, it's the budget resolution, so it'll be a referral to finance. That's 28-101-24. Next. To resolutions, we'll have a resolution 107-101-24R by Ms. Frederick. It's resolution approving a transfer of budgeted funds for authorized positions. Those positions, I believe, are in police and fire. There'll be a referral to the Finance Committee. That's resolution 107-101-24R. Next, also by Ms. Frederick, resolution 108-101-24R. It's a resolution of the Common Council establishing the locally adjusted base proportions of the homestead and non-homestead classes for property tax purposes. Do you want to say anything about that, Mr. Williams?
Just that I think the numbers need some adjusting. They're correct in one part of the resolution, if I recall correctly, but incorrect in another part, so I just got to send out a corrected version that has the consistent, correct numbers. So I assume that was going to go to
Finance.
Yeah, so I'll have that fixed up before it goes to finance.
Thank you. Okay, so next resolution by Ms. Farrell's 109-101-24R's resolution. The council highlighting the isolation of Wadsworth Center project by calling for the greater incorporation of the plot into the city of Albany. Ms. Farrell?
So people may have been following, and actually everybody signed on to a letter. So
yep.
Thank you. This is basically a resolution that was created from that letter, which the concept behind it is we're thrilled that Wadsworth is consolidating and staying in the city of Albany. It was definitely our hope that Wadsworth moving to where it was moving would help inspire a change in the state office campus, which really is a giant hole between, I would say, three neighborhoods that are similar. So Councilmember Hoey and Councilmember Hyde, I'm sorry, I'm only thinking of your first name. But we are, it's really like this big hole between all of us. And similar to the Empire State Plaza, it was just not created in a way that was conducive to the neighborhoods really being part of it. So while we fully support a fence around and security for Wadsworth itself, their goals right now are to really make it very car-centric and put up a large fence around the entire plot of land, not just the building. So it creates just a giant barrier for the neighbors. And the neighbors really fought to have Wadsworth there. Fully support, again, great security there, but it's unnecessary to create this campus in a very car-centric way that further alienates the city and doesn't encourage people to live in our neighborhoods, because you could live in our neighborhoods and walk there, but the way they're designing it, they're making sure that's not possible. So this is just a resolution to follow up the letter that we did.
Thank you. Okay, so we're all co-sponsors on that. We all signed on to the letter, so we'll be moving forward with that. Next, resolution by me, Resolution 110-101-24R, resolution the council recognizing the work and activism of the Black Nurses Coalition in raising breast cancer awareness. It's pretty self-explanatory, although there is a cancer walk. It's annual. We're on the 5th annual walk. It's going to be this weekend on Saturday, I believe, the 12th. So yeah, this is in recognition of that. So yeah, we'll be voting on that. Anyone interested in co-sponsoring, show of hands. I believe we all have our hands up. So, okay. So next, also, resolution also by me, it's 111, 101, 24 hours. It's a resolution of the council declaring week October 7th through 11th to be Digital Inclusion Week in the city of Albany. We'll be voting on that. We've traditionally all been co-sponsors on that. So I don't, by a show of hands, everyone in? I believe we are. And I'd like to thank Mr. Irish. This is one of his gifts to us every year. Thank you. And it's an important issue, so yeah, we'll be voting on that. Next, on to Resolution 112, 101 24R by Ms. Farrell. It's a resolution of the Common Council honoring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I'm going to make the assumption that we're all co-sponsors on this. It's something we all care deeply about. So I don't know if you want to say anything, Ms. I don't think you need to, but okay. All right, so we're all co-sponsors on that. Then next by Ms. Romero, resolution of October 14, 2024 as Indigenous Peoples Day in the city of Albany. That's resolution 113, 101, 24R. You can say something now, or you can say something during the meeting. You usually talk during the meeting about it, right? So if you want to say something, we have time. Okay? During the meeting. Okay. So we'll be voting on that. I'd like to be a co-sponsor. Any show of hands for co-sponsors? We're good? Okay, next is a resolution by Mr. Flynn, 114, 101, 24R. It's a resolution of Albany Common Council commemorating October as National Italian American Heritage Month. Again, we've traditionally all been co-sponsors on it. All right. Then next on to resolution by Ms. Keegan, 115, 101, 24R. It's a resolution of the Common Council demanding departments of the city of Albany to furnish books, vouchers, and papers for the Common Council investigation of workforce culture. Ms. Keegan.
We're going to have to discuss that in executive session.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we will have an executive session during the meeting. That was 115, 101. And so next, a resolution by me to add by majority consent. It's resolution 116, 101, 24R. It's a resolution of the Common Council celebrating the scholarship created by Richard and Janet Uhlman for students in Arbor Hill to attend college and recognizing the recipients for their hard work. So this came as a request from our previous legislative aide, Ms. Kashana Burt. So I believe she's not here yet, but she will be here this evening. So this is in honor of that scholarship program and of the hard work. Again, they're having a reunion. It'll be downstairs in the rotunda on Friday?
Saturday.
On Saturday, recognizing, and then they're having an event on Sunday also, a ceremony, a celebration. Okay, so again, it's the 36th anniversary of that program getting started, which I think is a milestone and speaks to the hard work of the folks involved in that program. So this is a resolution in honor of that. And we'll have a presentation copy, and hopefully if Ms. Burt is here, we could also take a picture with her in honor of it. So that's it for, no, actually, we got okay, so under resolutions held by Mr. Ballerin, there's resolution 85, 81, 24R, resolution of council reappointing Kirk Daniels to the Public Education and Government Access Oversight Board. I believe the PEG Ad Hoc Committee met, and we came through with a positive recommendation. So we'll be moving forward with reappointment of Kirk Daniels. And that. And so, also just, so in dealing with the issue of the workforce, the investigation of workforce culture, during reports of standing committees, ad hoc committees will go into our executive session to discuss that. So, and that's it. Mr. Holy.
Yeah, I just wanted to find out, and I can't find it now. We want to do some changes to the violence prevention task force.
Got it. Yeah, I got that right here too. So,
Okay.
and then after we do the executive session, you should have in front of you a resolution by Mr. Hoey that it's got a list of names for the violence prevention task force.
If, I don't know if everyone has the list in front of them. I will make sure that everyone has the full list prior to miscellaneous business when we vote on that.
Okay.
But it is, the resolution isn't really naming people so much as it's resetting the membership, because some of the people who initially expressed interest also have other commitments. When we originally named the committee, or sorry, the task force, we named 22 people to it. So a quorum to that would be 12 people. And that is too many for them to maintain. So this resolution, it's not actually naming new people, it's renaming people there and setting the total membership to 15. That would be 13 people and then 2 vacancies. So then the quorum would actually be 8 rather than the current 12 it is.
Thank you for explaining that.
And we'll do that during miscellaneous, right, at the end, very end? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is it for the agenda. Any?
Kelly, I just want to make my comments now for miscellaneous so we can get to the Yankee game at 7 o'clock. But the speed cameras, I'm sure we're all getting questions about the speed cameras in school zones, but just let everybody know, a $50 fine is better than getting pulled over by a police officer. You know, getting your registration out, go to court, just drive slow. I know everybody's been getting social media, but, you know, it's 20 miles. And just obey the laws. That's simple. I know social media, everybody's talking about where the cameras. There's 3 that are active right now, and then we're going to be slowly bringing them out, Tom. So if you can go more onto it, I know you and I discussed it, but just put information that you know that people should be aware of.
Ms. Farrell?
So as of today, we have 3 schools speed zones that are ticketing, which is by Eagle Point, All Saints, and Albany High. On, I believe, the 10th, Ash, the school speed zones in front of Ash will be, those tickets will be starting to count. It is my understanding that those came online first because the technology was up already, so it was easy to turn that on, quote unquote. They are building out others, and at our next leadership meeting, we'll talk about specifics with it. We've had some questions, but we'll get the exact methodology and where the other sites are going to be. They hadn't had all of them together. They were talking to traffic and the school district and the other schools around to kind of see, because we are only allowed to have 20. It's a limited scope on exactly where we can have them. I guess we have like 48 school zones because every school, even like a nursery school, counts as a school zone. So that we'll be getting more information that we can share with people. But just encourage people to drive safely, as Councilmember Flynn said. Nobody should be speeding in a school zone. It just, period, end of discussion. It makes a huge impact on safety, traffic safety in New York City. This brought down pedestrian-related incidents over 95%. That's huge because most of those pedestrian-related incidents were our kids. So This is something that works, and people should just drive slower and safer.
Mr. Holy?
Yeah, and the only other thing I want to say is we have a limited number of LED signs, and they do, for every school, you're going to have 2 signs for each direction. So we're using up about 8 of those digital signs right now. So it will happen, it will roll out, and if you read into the actual state law, you know, people who are getting at 21 miles an hour will not get that now that they're live. It's a certain amount of miles per hour over. So, but it will make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Hoey. And again, it's a learning process. I guess most people are concerned. And my argument would be the way to not get a ticket for speeding is to not speed. It's going to be an adjustment period. Just thinking at some of the locations, at the major locations, I think we'd probably end up with more folks coming from out of town than our residents. But in any case, we want the behavior to change amongst the population, amongst everyone. So to that end, I hope we won't make nearly as much money as the budget office thinks we will, or as much revenue as the budget office thinks we will, and folks will behave and be more sensible in their driving behavior around our schools. With that, any other comments? Just got a couple minutes before we start up, so we'll just kind of sit quietly until we start the meeting. And please remember to turn your mics off.
It's now 7 o'clock. I'd like to call to order tonight's Common Council meeting, Monday, October 7th, 2024. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Present.
Anani.
Present.
Ballerin. Clark.
Here.
Farrell.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Frederick. Hoey.
Here.
Johnson. Keegan.
Here.
Kimbrough.
Here.
Love. Robinson.
Present.
Councilmember Love will be joining us remotely. That's why they...
Romero. Zamer. 12 present, 3 absent.
Thank you. And will you stand with me and pledge allegiance and for a moment of silence?
For the record, we're joined by Councilmember Ballerin.
So, oh, he did. Perfect. Perfect. Next on our agenda is our public comment period. During public comment period, you will come to the seating area, state your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes to speak upon any issue you wish to speak upon. At that time, council members cannot address, answer, or address what your statement is. If they choose to do so, they will do so at a later portion in the meeting. Once again, you have 5 minutes. The green light will mean go. The yellow light means you have 1 minute remaining, and then once it turns red, please stop your comments. With that being said, can the clerk please call the first speaker?
Jonathan Capra.
Oh, right there. Good evening, honorable members of the Common Council. My name is Jonathan Capra, and I live at 423 Hackett Boulevard in the 8th Ward. I come to you tonight to urge you to re-examine the cabaret law. I will open by asking you the same question I posed 12 years ago to then Mayor Jerry Jennings. When Frank Sinatra sang about a city that didn't sleep, was he complaining? I think this simple question surmises how farcical the notion of a cabaret license is. We are not in an evangelical country. We are in the capital city of New York State. Yet we continue to keep an ordinance that is straight out of the 1980s movie Footloose on the books. Are we really going to continue to try to regulate music and dancing? Shall we require local venues to apply for a license to provide oxygen in their establishments next? New York City finally rightly repealed its cabaret law in 2017 after having originated to target the African American jazz clubs in Harlem in the early 20th century. I am not claiming that our cabaret law had racist intent, but like a poll tax or a reading test, it was an attempt to enforce a motive that could not be legally codified directly. However, since its inception, enforcement of the law has been slanted by race, targeting predominantly African American clubs disproportionately. When I moved from downstate for school nearly 30 years ago, I made sure to take occupancy in the SUNY downtown dorms because I knew what a vibrant nightlife and music culture existed downtown. That is all begone now. One now has to go to Troy or farther to Mid-Hudson to experience any sort of nighttime culture. 12 years ago, I listened as downtown residents came before this body and with a straight face said things along the lines of, I moved to Center Square in my 20s, but now I'm to be near the bars and the clubs, but now I'm in my 30s and 40s, and I have kids, and I need my peace and quiet. I even had a colleague that was a bouncer in a bar back in the early period of their adulthood somehow support this law when the wages he earned helped put himself through college, which got them their career, which in turn facilitated owning a home and having children. Why would you want to deny the next generation that opportunity? You may ask why a resident and a council member of the 8th Ward would be concerned with what occurs downtown. It is these examples of hypocrisy that point out what these people should have done. You cannot expect the world to revolve around you when your lifestyle changes, which is why when I got older and needed more peace and quiet, I moved uptown. But I and the Honorable Jack Flynn understand the impact of a vibrant nightlife on this city's economy and overall vitality. Local businesses are still hurting post-COVID, and that's bound to worsen now that the student population of St. Rose will be absent. To continue to maintain this impediment to local businesses to shoot ourselves in the foot. Meanwhile, the city seems fit to raise my property taxes 25% to pay for a code inspector to raid the Larkin Hi-Fi for playing music. To those of you who have outgrown the inherent essence of a downtown in a city, not a town, not a hamlet, not a village, I invite you to explore one of the many properties for sale where I live in the New Scotland neighborhood. Although, on second thought, we do tend to have children who play and laugh and scream at times, so I might worry that you try to regulate that too. To the council, I wanted to invite you to join me after session concludes at the Larkin Hi-Fi, which is an ingenious and inviting venue, befitting of the Lark Street many of us once knew, for their Bring Your Own Vinyl night. Instead, we'll have to postpone till a week from tonight because they're closed. But I invite you to drop by and see what it's about. And I plan to drop my copy of While the City Sleeps by MC 900 Foot Jesus.
Thank you, sir.
I implore you to repeal the cabaret law. It's time to restore the soul of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, no comment, no clapping. Thank you. Can you call next speaker, please? Thank you so much.
Christine Kielib.
Hello, thanks to the council for allowing me to speak. My name's Christine Kielb. I actually live in the village of Manans, close by to Albany. It came to my attention last year that the Albany City Council was considering mandating water fluoridation for the city. And that drew some concern from me. And I had heard that the judge in the judge in the Northern California district was going to rule on whether this presented a hazard. And in fact, that judge did rule recently about that. And so that court has ordered the EPA to take regulatory action to eliminate what has been established as an unreasonable risk to children's health posed by water fluoridation. The court came to this conclusion by applying EPA's risk assessment framework to fluoride. This decision, dated September 24th, 2024, concluded that claims of the safety of this practice are not supported by the scientific evidence, which clearly shows a risk of reduced IQ in children at dosages close to that in fluoridated drinking water. The court used information from a comprehensive review of the literature conducted a few years ago by the U.S. National Toxicology Program. This review demonstrated a high level of certainty that fluoridated water is a hazard. The NTP, or National Toxicology Program, reviewed 72 epidemiologic studies. Most of these studies, including all but one of 19 studies considered to be of high quality, found an adverse association between fluoride and IQ, even at lower exposure levels. As an epidemiologist myself, I'm familiar with the fact that having consistency of results in such a large number of studies is an important indicator of the validity of the findings. And getting down to the specific findings, a mother's exposure to fluoride during pregnancy is associated with decreased IQ in her offspring. A pooled analysis concluded that just a 1 point drop in IQ is expected for each 0.28 milligrams per liter in maternal urinary fluoride levels, and median maternal urinary levels range from 0.8 to 1.89, so that's a lot higher than 0.28. Decreases in IQ, even of 1 or 2 points, although it might seem insignificant, is linked to things like reduced educational attainment, reduced employment status, lower productivity, and lower earned wages. The size of the population potentially affected is about 200 million people who live where fluoride is added to the water supply. In particular, about 2 million pregnant women, along with over 300,000 babies fed exclusively with formula utilizing this water, are exposed. Given this information, Albany may want to reconsider its support for fluoridation. Once a child's IQ is adversely affected, it cannot be reversed. And just a question for the council. Do any advantages to dental health, which do exist, from fluoridation justify the risk of lowered IQs in children? Aren't there other ways to improve children's dental health? Thank you.
Thank you. Can the clerk please call the next speaker? Clerk.
Patricia Pierce.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Pierce. I live on Grove Avenue in Albany. 2 weeks ago, the Federal District Court in San Francisco ruled against the EPA allowing water fluoridation to continue as is. The decision pertains to all water systems in the United States. The court stated, quote, "Plaintiffs have proven by a preponderance of the evidence that water fluoridation at the level of 0.7 milligrams per liter, the prescribed optimal level of fluoridation in the United States, presents an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children." Let me repeat that. Plaintiffs have proven that water fluoridation presents an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children. The lawsuit, ruling 80 pages long, is entirely based on science. The evidence was overwhelming. The National Toxicology Program, the highest level agency reviewing fluoride's toxicity in the country, cited 64 out of 72 studies linking higher fluoride with lower IQ, with 18 out of the 19 highest quality studies finding this link, several at levels in fluoridated water. City officials across the nation are now already taking action to protect their citizens. In New York, the cities of Yorktown and Somers immediately stopped fluoridating their water. Albany's Common Council, led by Chief Sponsor Tom Hoey, voted on February 22nd to fluoridate the water. But in response to concerns raised by numerous residents about fluoridation safety, he stated that if the federal lawsuit against the EPA was successful, he and the council would withdraw the ordinance to fluoridate. He repeated the pledge in an interview with WAMC Public Radio, quote, "So if this lawsuit finds that fluoride is not good for the water, of course, myself and the rest of the council will withdraw the legislation to put fluoride in the water." Safe Water Albany now calls upon Tom Hoey and the rest of the Common Council to simply do the right thing. Immediately vote to withdraw the ordinance to fluoridate Albany's water. It comes down to two main points. Number one, you'll either protect Albany's children or you'll put them at risk for irreversible brain damage. Number two, you'll either keep your promise or you'll break your promise. I hope you choose the honorable decision. If you do, Albany's parents and children will respect you and be grateful for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the clerk please call the next speaker?
Allison Williams. Allison Williams.
Good evening, Common Council. I just want to talk about Lincoln Park in terms of the garbage, the dog poop. We need garbage cans in Lincoln. I have organized a women's walk in Lincoln every Saturday and Sunday, so I'm seeing it on a regular since September 8th. And they need garbage cans and possibly bags for people to pick up their dog's business. I think that's, we have kids there walking. I did see the trees are being taken down, so you can see where you're walking and who's in the bushes. I think, with that being done, I'm glad about that, but the dogs stuff in the trash cans, we need that. So that's all I'm gonna say. Good night, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes, there's no one else signed up for public comment period this evening, so that concludes the public comment period.
I signed up online to speak.
Hold on. Two of the recipients, so I saw 3 hands. Mr. Marlon Anderson, Tom Ellis, and Shauna Parker. Okay. Okay. Mr. Anderson. I'm glad I know your names. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, members of the council, members of the public. My name is Marlon Anderson, for those of you who do not know, former candidate for mayor in the city of Albany and longtime community advocate in the city of Albany. And I'm here to address the furor that's been going on over the cabaret law as one of the few individuals who was actually involved and had input in the process, who actually attended the meetings, who actually addressed the council about the situation. So I'm going to try to be the adult in the room here, because The majority of the council was not even elected when that process was going forward. And the cabaret law was simply a ham-handed attempt by Mayor Jennings at that time to try to look to be doing something about the out-of-control violence that was going on in the clubs at that time in this city. At that time in the city, we had a lot of club owners and clubs who were very irresponsible about their clubs, who only could see the dollar signs. And while they were seeing the dollar signs, people were virtually dying at the doorsteps of their clubs. So that's where the cabaret law came from. It wasn't a racist issue. It wasn't anything of that nature. It was a ham-handed response by an outgoing mayor to try to address the violence in the community. But that was then, and this is now. And while the law has some valid points, mostly the revenue stream that it continues to generate for an overtaxed and overburdened populace in the city of Albany. It should not be being used as a weapon to target burgeoning businesses like the gentleman at the Larkins went through in his business a couple of weeks ago. It should not be used to be a blanket to water down business. So what the law needs to be done, it doesn't need to be thrown out, it doesn't need to be repealed, it needs to be fixed. And that means for you guys to get together in this council chamber and do your job to address it, to fix it. Again, it should be a merit-based system addressing individuals who are bad clubs in the city and hold them to account while rewarding good clubs and good business arrangements in the city. It shouldn't be a blanket thing. It shouldn't be, oh, you're doing this. No one should ever have to go through what the gentleman in Larkin went through with his business. It needs to be fixed. The revenue stream needs to be maintained. If you're going to repeal something, repeal the tax fee. If you're going to change something, change the inane law that removed the lights in the park for the holidays for charity. There's so many things that can be done, but with this law, it needs to be fixed. That's what you need to do, fix it, not repeal it. If you can fix it, take out the bad, keep the good. And the good generally is the revenue stream and the regulation. Turn it into a law that regulates and properly enforces it on the bad operators in the city and focus on the good. And remember where the cabaret law came from. It wasn't a racist issue. It wasn't a vindictive issue towards the clubs. It was in response to irresponsible bar owners filling their clubs up with children and then letting whatever happened happen. And we can think about all the deaths that happened at Legends on Lark Street, at Jillian's, at the Big House, and more clubs. You can go down the line. People were dying. That's what created the cabaret law. I'm not defending it at all, as I said. Nothing should ever happen what happened to the gentleman at the Larkin. It should never happen. It should not be used as a weapon. It needs to be fixed. But remember, as the few of you that were here, remember what that law was created for. Because irresponsible bar owners were being irresponsible, and it was costing people lives in this city. So fix it. Don't throw it out. Fix it. Open the doors for business in a proper way. Do your jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Mr. Tom Ellis.
Thank you. I appreciate the 5 minutes, but I don't think I'll need it. So my name is Tom Ellis. I live on North Pine Avenue in the city of Albany, and I want to thank the City Council for passing a bill sometime in the last year which will reduce the speed limit in the city of Albany from 30 to 25 miles an hour on most streets. Yes, please do it. I know I had a letter in the Schenectady Gazette at least 20 years ago calling for that. You know, it's long overdue, and it'll make this city a lot safer. You may recall that I was in here last fall and winter, maybe 6 or 7 different times with my colleagues, and we were speaking against the proposal to put fluoride in the city's water supply, okay? And it was our belief that the promoters of community water fluoridation cannot prove that water fluoridation is safe, even though they said that they could, okay? In my view, some of those people who came in here, some of those physicians and dentists, they lied to you, okay? That's my opinion, okay? So the council voted to begin community water fluoridation, which I think will start next year. As a concession, Mr. Hoey, I thank you very much. On the night the vote was passed, and the next day, Mr. Hoey was quoted two slightly different quotes, but one of them was that, so if this federal lawsuit finds that fluoride is not good for the water, of course, emphasis added by me, myself and the rest of the council will withdraw the legislation to put fluoride in the water. So the court decision was issued on September 24th. It's 80 pages. I have a copy of it here. I'm going to give it to the city council. I would like it to be included in the official record of today's proceeding. On page 79 of the judge's decision, he wrote, quote, the scientific quote, the scientific literature in the record provides a high level of certainty that a hazard is present. Fluoride is associated with reduced IQ. The qualitative evidence is superior, end quote. This is a very good report. It's not easy to read. It's very scientific. Even for a person like me who's taken 6 statistics courses, a lot of the data in here was difficult to comprehend, but the first 6 pages of the report and the last 7 are written in layman's terms, which are very easy to understand, and they pretty much summarize the decision. So I urge you to read that, if nothing else. Okay? So I'm calling on Mr. Hoey to introduce legislation to repeal the community water fluoridation law, and I ask the council to pass it. Okay? I urge you to read this decision, and I'm going to give you a copy. And I'd also like to note that I work as a special ed teacher. I teach girls and trans youth who have learning disabilities, and some of them are intellectually challenged. I teach 15-year-old girls, if I give them a flashcard, 8 plus 5, they have to think about what the answer is. Or if I give them a flashcard 8 times 7, they don't have a clue what it is. So if we put fluoride in the water, children like them are going to be even more slowed down than they are now. Their lives are difficult now. Why would we want to make a child who's already slow, intellectually challenged, even have a way more difficult life? A 3 or 4 point drop in IQ is enormous, you know? And if we put fluoride in the water, we're going to have more learning disabled kids, and we're going to have way fewer geniuses. So this is a very important decision, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Thank you. Can the clerk call next speaker?
Kashana Parker. Kashana.
Thank you.
Ms. Janice can come up with you if you would like her to.
Would you like to come? We have Mr. Curry.
Yes. No? Okay.
Would you like to say it? Good evening. Hello, Council President and Council members and their supporting staff. I appreciate you for having us here this evening, or for introducing a resolution honoring our...
State your name and address.
Oh, I apologize. My name is Kashana Bird. I reside at 45 Montrose Drive in Del Mar, New York. I am very excited that we've been planning and putting together our first Albany Dreamer Scholarship reunion. It's the first one we've had in 36 years. I was a part of a class from 1987 to 1988 at Arbor Hill Elementary School, which received a full scholarship. The whole 6th grade class received a full scholarship to any college in the United States for a 4-year program, 4-year degree. It was a very historical event, and I don't think it's been since recreated within the City of Albany School District. And so I just have some supporting people here that were our actual directors during that time. Part of the program, they followed us from 6th grade all the way through high school. And it was a very important resource for us as students to think about our future and want to build and grow and strive in life. So with that being said, we do have an event coming up, and I express extreme gratitude to the City of Albany and Councilmember Kimbrough for their support with having our meet and greet here and in the City Hall Rotunda from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday. And we have an award ceremony and banquet at Arbor Hill Elementary School, where it all began coming full circle on Sunday, October 13th from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Janice Mapaga, and I live at 195 West Lawrence Street here in Albany. And in fact, I was born and raised in Albany and went to the Albany Public Schools. So it was my honor to be the coordinator of the I Have a Dream program when it began and to its end. And Mr. Neil Curry was the assistant coordinator of the program. And I won't take much of your time because I think Kashana has said everything that needs to be said about the program. She's living proof, and the success of the program speaks for itself literally through her and the other students. So this resolution is very timely, and it's important to recognize these students. This program actually increased the graduation rate from high school of students of African descent from Albany High School. And it continues to do that. It continues to work in a very effective way. We're seeing the positive effects of the program all the time. And as you can see through Kashana and the other students, that the resolution recognizes the success of the program. So again, it's very important that we acknowledge our students for their success in many walks of life. And we appreciate your awarding this resolution to our students. And we hope, in fact, that we can duplicate the program at some point, because it is very impactful and necessary for the city of Albany. Thank you.
Thank you. And the young lady, do you want to speak, young lady?
Hello, hi, my name is Audra Wilson, and I reside 14 Mohawk Street in the city of Albany. I will only speak for 2 minutes. I'm just gonna reiterate a little bit of what they said. I did not grow up in Arbor Hill as a dreamer for their class, but I am one of the participants that helped put the organization, the event together for them. And the only thing I'm going to say is, sometimes in life, no matter your age, everything don't go according to plan. It's a slope. Sometimes you might fall off of that slope, but you try to find ways to get back up that slope. You know how they say sometimes stuff is fun, sliding down, but now it's hard to get back up. So long story short, me being one of the coordinators to help them put this dream together, this event, is just a matter of me saying, for the ones that's attending this event, for the sponsors and everybody that supported us being able to put it together, it gave them exactly what the title of it is. A dream, something to look back forward to. So when they attend this event, they still can have a dream, in the words of Martin Luther King, no matter the age. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes our public comment period for this evening. We move on to our next item on our agenda, approval of minutes from previous meeting. Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer the September 16th of 2024 meeting minutes for approval.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion, minutes approved. There's no consideration of local laws. So we'll move on to reports of standing committees. Ms. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. On September 24th, the Law, Buildings, and Code Committee met. We had 4 ordinances on the agenda. We held Ordinance 164223 and Ordinance 186124. We moved, with a positive recommendation, Ordinance 196224, which is an ordinance amending Article 8, Public Nuisance Abatement of Chapter 255, Peace and Good Order of the Code of the City of Albany in relation to correcting definitions to match state law. It was something Councilmember Keegan found as she was digging through to align our code with state law. We were not in alignment, and this law will allow us to do so. We discussed Ordinance 248124, an ordinance amending Chapter 359, Vehicles and Traffic, and Chapter 251, Parks and Recreation of the Code of the City of Albany in relation to the operation of active transportation in the City of Albany. So we had a discussion on that, and we have some amendments, and we'll be bringing that back to committee and look forward to moving it in the future.
Thank you. Ms. Frederick?
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on October 3rd for our first discussion on the fiscal year 25 proposed city budget. During that conversation, we had discussions with the city treasurer, the budget director, and the Department of Administrative Services. Upcoming this week, we have 2 meetings for the budget. Tomorrow at 5:30 on October 8th, we are discussing the police department budget and the fire department budget. And on Thursday, October 10th at 5:30, we are discussing the recreation budget, the youth workforce budget, and the Community Police Review Board budget, CPRB. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ballard?
Thank you, Mr. President. On September 30th, the PEG Ad-Hoc Committee met. We looked at a reappointment of Kirk Daniels, who's already served on PEG Access, and we voted that out with a favorable recommendation. We also have an additional opening on PEG. We've had 3 residents willing to, who met with us and willing to put their names forward. We are still going to meet again to look at those names one more time and see how we move forward, what's best for PEG. So so you have in front of you one of those resolutions that did move forward, a reappointment of Kirk Daniels. Again, he has already served on PEG, and he's got years and years of experience in media. And he's been a really good member of the board, active participant in everything you can ask for. So we hope that passes this body today. In addition, we will be meeting, the Planning Committee will be meeting on October 28th. We will be discussing the franchise agreement. If you haven't had an opportunity to read it, please do so. If you have any questions, please bring it to the Planning Committee on the 28th of October. It will then go to the full body on, if it passes committee, it will then go to the full body on November 4th. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keegan, would you like to give a report to Ad-Hoc Committee before I go to Mr. Flynn?
I think I have to report out that we met first.
Okay. You say that again?
I think you have to move to ad hoc committees, and then I have to report out that we met first, and then he has to make the motion.
Yes. Just report to Ad-Hoc Committee, yes. Because we're done with the...
Okay. So the Committee on Ethics and Workforce Culture met on September 25th. During that meeting, we received testimony from numerous city employees with regards to their concerns in the workplace. For anybody who didn't watch the video of that meeting, I strongly recommend that you do. It was informative enough and exciting enough to have rendered the Times-Union, but I can't discuss any information beyond that outside of executive session.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of particular employees related to allegations made before the Committee on Ethics and Workforce Culture.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Going into the executive session, everyone will have to leave the leave the council chambers except for our council staff and our corporate attorneys as well. Will be allowed in them. You will be allowed back once executive session ends. Okay, as we continue on our agenda, I think where we left off was reports of ad hoc standing committees. So we're moving on to considerations of ordinances. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice ordinance 28-101-24 and ask for its introduction.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the ordinance?
An ordinance adopting the City of Albany's budget for fiscal year 2025 as presented by the mayor on October 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Mr. Kimbrough?
Thank you, Mr. President. There'll be referral to Council's Finance Committee, and I believe we can hold all remaining ordinances on the agenda.
Thank you so much. Now moving on to considerations of resolutions, starting off with Ms. Frederick.
Thank you. I notice resolution 107-101-24R and ask for its introduction.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council approving a transfer of budget funds and a change in the authorized position included in the 2024 city budget, which will affect a salary rate or salary total.
Thank you. Mr. Kimbrough?
Thank you, Mr. President. There'll be referral to the Council's Finance Committee.
Thank you. Ms. Frederick?
I notice resolution 108-101-24R and ask for its introduction.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council establishing the locally adjusted base proportions of the homestead and non-homestead classes for property tax purposes pursuant to Article 19 of the Real Property Tax Law.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Thank you, Mr. President. Referral to Finance.
Okay, continuing on, Ms. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 109-101-24R and ask for its introduction and passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council highlighting the isolation of Wadsworth Center project and calling for the greater incorporation of the plot into the City of Albany.
Discussion on this resolution. Ms. Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution is to reinforce a letter that the council signed on to with several elected officials, including Assemblymember Pat Fahey, that basically asks the state to ensure that Wadsworth has the security that it needs while also making it so that it can be a walkable destination to allow people that live in the city to walk to their place of work, and also allow people to enjoy any businesses or neighborhoods and encourage more walkability in state campuses.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
It's a voice.
Oh, we are? Didn't have that memo, okay. So with that, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Continuing on with resolutions introduced. Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 110-101-24R and ask for its introduction and passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council recognizing the work and activism of the Black Nurses Coalition in raising breast cancer awareness.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Kimbrough?
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's my honor to sponsor this resolution. It recognizes the Black nurses and their exceptional work and activism in raising awareness about breast cancer in our community. The Black Nurses Coalition is an invaluable asset to our city, striving tirelessly to improve health awareness among people of color and those economically disadvantaged. Their work has not only provided vital information and resources, but it has also fostered empowerment and advocacy among African Americans in our city. One of their most impactful has been their annual breast cancer awareness walk, which is occurring on Saturday. It's now in its 5th year, and it seeks to reach out to minority and underserved neighborhoods, raising awareness about breast cancer and offering access to important resources. Additionally, the coalition's BNC Health Academy provides health education for youth, while events like Share Yoga, healthy eating sessions promote holistic well-being. Furthermore, their partnerships with local organizations have cemented their role as a community pillar, ensuring that healthcare education and resources are available to all. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is an honor and a privilege to speak in support of this resolution to celebrate the work of an extraordinary leader, Dr. Brenda Robson, and organization, the Black Nurses Coalition, for their incredible efforts in raising awareness about breast cancer, especially within black and underserved communities. Dr. Brenda Robson is not only a highly respected medical professional, but also a fierce advocate for health equity. And through her tireless activism, she has shown us the power of community-driven initiatives to address disparities in healthcare. As many may know, black women are disproportionately affected by breast cancer, often diagnosed at later stages, which significantly impacts their survival rates. Under Dr. Brenda Robinson's leadership and the Black Nurses Coalition, there has been a vital push for efforts to change this narrative. Under her guidance, the Black Nurses Coalition has done more than just raise awareness. They have empowered women, families, and communities to take control of their health, from organizing free health care screenings to providing educational workshops and even going with individuals to doctor's appointments. The coalition has been instrumental in breaking down barriers to care and fostering trust between healthcare providers and the communities they serve. Their work has also highlighted the importance of culturally competent care, ensuring that individuals feel heard, understood, and supported throughout their health journeys. In an age where healthcare disparities remain a major issue, Dr. Brenda Robson and the Black Nurses Coalition remind us that change is possible if we center our efforts around empathy, education, and action. I thank my colleague, Councilman Kimbrough, for bringing this resolution forward.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
So I just would like to follow up and just say thank you to the black nurses for all that they do. Each time there's an event, you always see Dr. Robinson or her daughter there, and I just think that it's important that our young brothers and sisters see leadership that looks just like themselves, especially in the nursing field. So I'm forever grateful to her effort, and I'm glad that we're recognizing her tonight.
Thank you. Since we're all, no other comments, if you're all co-sponsors, voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Continuing on, Ms. Farrow. Oh, sorry. Kimbrough.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I noticed Resolution 111, 101, 24R, ask for its introduction and passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council declaring the week of October 7th through October 11th, 2024 to be Digital Inclusion Week in the City of Albany.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Kimbrough.
Yes, again, thank you to Mr. Irish for bringing this forth and getting after me every year to make sure it gets done. I'm proud to present this resolution. It seeks to declare October 7th through 11th as Digital Inclusion Week in the City of Albany. In our ever-changing digital age, access to technology and the skills to utilize it are not just conveniences, they are essential components of daily life. From education to employment, healthcare to civic participation, digital knowledge is the key that opens the door to countless opportunities. However, not all members of our community have equitable access to these vital resources, creating a digital divide that we must work together to bridge. This resolution recognizes the importance of promoting digital knowledge and connectivity. It celebrates the efforts in our city to ensure that students, regardless of income and background, have the access to technology they need to succeed. It acknowledges the steps taken to explore municipal internet services, which would provide internet access to all residents, regardless of their economic standing or geographic location. Digital Inclusion Week will serve as a time for us to focus on and elevate these discussions, to educate, engage, and inspire our community to take action toward a greater digital equity. It will be a week for programming, conversations, and alternative initiatives aimed at bringing us closer together as a digital inclusive city. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, since you're all co-sponsors, voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Now, Ms. Farrow.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice Resolution 112-101-24R and ask for its introduction and passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Albany Common Council honoring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Discussion on this resolution. Ms. Farrell?
Thank you very much. I'd first like to thank Councilmember Keegan, who was the original sponsor on this, and I believe because I'd been talking more about my history recently, may have pushed my name there, so thank you. I think it's difficult to talk about, one of the issues that I have talking about my childhood is that the reaction that people have when you explain that you grew up in a house with extreme physical and mental abuse. But it happens in a lot of places that people don't recognize. You are absolutely, every part of you hides it. And you don't necessarily hide it because you don't want people to know. You want people to know so badly, but people don't know how to react, and that kind of compounds the trauma. So I have a brother who's 10 years younger than I am, and I did everything. He fortunately did not have any physical abuse, but I tried very hard to report it, and I had teachers walk away from me when finally we went through a family court situation, and I in closed chambers talked to a judge about it and read detailed reports of a diary that I had of abuse, and really horrific abuse. He stopped and said, this isn't really what we're talking about, let's move on, and then turned to my mother and said that I thought that you two would always get back together. And I share this story because how we react when we're in positions of power, it matters. And listening and taking the time to when somebody is saying something, even if it's not something that you can immediately do something about, it's really important. It's really important to listen to children when they're talking about things, and it's really important to people who are in domestic violence situations. Your entire brain, your entire mind is to hide it because you feel like it's your fault, or you feel like there's something that you've done. There's so many mental parts of it. So it's something that I would say growing up, a lot of the people that saw me would not have predicted it. My dad made sure that all of my bruises, he said it was leave no marks, so nobody could see any of the abuse that was very much there, because he made sure it was all in places that was not visible. You can't always see it, but it's important to be present, and it's important to know how pervasive it is, because I guarantee you, a lot of the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, there are people there that either have been or are currently in a very dangerous situation. So I appreciate us recognizing this and everybody for listening.
Any further discussion? Ms. Keegan?
I want to thank Councilmember Farrell for continuing on with this resolution. I believe I was the first person on the council to share my personal experience with domestic violence, and I just want to acknowledge your courage and your bravery in being willing to speak publicly. I know it was not a comfortable experience for me, my first year talking about this, and my experience was very different from yours. But I just wanted to acknowledge your willingness to continue to carry the resolution and for speaking this evening. Thank you.
We're all co-sponsors on this. Vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Continuing on with resolution introduced. Ms. Romero?
Thank you, Mr. President. I noticed Resolution 113, 101-24R, and ask for its introduction and passage.
Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution honoring October 14th, 2024 as Indigenous Peoples' Day in the city of Albany.
Discussion on this resolution?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Through this resolution honoring October 14th as Indigenous Peoples' Day in the city of Albany, we come together to recognize and celebrate the history, culture, and contributions of Indigenous communities that have long called this land home. Albany, just like a lot of New York, rests on ancestral lands of Indigenous nations. And so we passed this resolution as a celebration of Indigenous culture, but also as a very solemn reminder of the heinous injustices that Indigenous people have endured throughout history. And it's our responsibility as Albany council members, but also New Yorkers, to confront the painful past and strive towards a future that's built on respect, equity, and healing. So as we pass this resolution tonight and as we go forward, we have to work hard to do the work to commit ourselves to lifting up Indigenous voices and ensuring that their rights and sovereignty and contributions are always recognized and honored. And here in the Albany Common Council, this is a symbolic act, but it's a true step towards justice and a call to continue the work of making our city the best city, the city of Albany, a place where every community thrives. So I hope for a unanimous passage of this resolution and the work that could be done towards making this an official holiday.
Further discussion? Since you're all co-sponsors, all those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Mr. Flynn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice Resolution 114 and 101, 24R, and ask for its introduction and passage.
Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Albany Common Council commemorating October as National Italian American Heritage Month.
Discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, since you're all co-sponsors, another voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Ms. Keegan?
I notice resolution 115.101.24R and ask for its introduction and passage. And just to note, this is the resolution that was discussed and passed out of committee this evening, October 7th.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council demanding departments of the City of Albany to furnish books, vouchers, and papers for the Common Council's investigation of workforce culture.
Discussion on this resolution. Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Farrow.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Hoey.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Romero.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Mr. Kimbrough?
Yes, excuse me. Motion to add resolution 116-101-24R by majority consent.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Kimbrough?
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 116-101-24R and ask for its introduction and passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council celebrating the scholarship created by Richard and Janet Yeoman for students in Arbor Hill to attend college and recognizing the recipients for their hard work.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Kimbrough?
Yes, sir. Again, this is celebrating a program started by the Yeomans, and I'm recognizing that education is the key to all, to uplift people. I was the first person in my family to go to college, so I appreciate that. I had people along the way that weren't the Yeomans, and I didn't get a scholarship, but they raised me up, just like the Yeomans did the Dreamers, which is important. And further, by the time I got to college, I had another uplift sort of like Dreamers. I was a part of the EOP program at SUNY Albany. We have a number of folks here. I would argue that's akin to you know, what happened here. So, nothing but kudos to the Dreamers. I know you, Kashana, but I don't know the rest of your cohort and where they are. But I know what you've done. I've worked with you for years. So congratulations, and keep doing what you do.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. Just thinking about the Dreamers program makes me smile because I remember the Dreamers program quite well. At that time, I believe I was in college playing basketball on a full athletic scholarship, and I was kind of jealous because I said, when you got to school, you understood, like the goal was to get a athletic scholarship, but the best scholarship is an academic scholarship because you're going to go to class anyways. And, you know, the responsibilities of being an athlete is demanding. So I just, when I came in today and I looked over and I saw Nil sitting over there and I saw my substitute teacher, you know, that's always been in the background. You know, I just think, I thought about 30 years, I thought about the Midnight Basketball League and I thought about the Dreamers. You know, everything that works for our community, it just disappears. And, you know, I know that somebody had to put a lot of money behind the Dreamers, and it's a bunch of those guys that went to college. My first cousin, Dante Ivey, every chance I get the chance to say his name, I'm going to say it. Dante went to Virginia State University, he graduated, and that was something big for our family because my family didn't have money to send us to college. So, you know, it was either, like they said, it was a jump shot, and luckily they had the Dreamers. So, you know, to hear that story, it automatically makes me think about Dante, but also the two people that led that program, and for them to still be involved in education and still be involved in people's lives and still just smiling and congratulating you on your successes. I think that it's very important that we highlight things like that that touch the community. I hope to be able to make it to the celebration, but if I don't, you know I'm celebrating with you wherever I'm at. So I think this is great work by Mr. Kimbrough. I'm glad that we highlighted this because this was something that had a significant impact on our community, and it continues to have an impact on our community because those kids are no longer kids. They are responsible adults that are performing in our community, and you know, major kudos to the family that put their money where their mouth is at, because that's the type of stuff that really makes a difference in the world. And so shout outs to them, but please, if it's someone listening, we need this to be duplicated, this effort to be duplicated and give other kids the chance to dream. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, since you're all co-sponsors, voice vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. Moving on. Oh, yes, they wanted to present the resolution. is all for resolution introduced. We have one more resolutions held. Mr. Ballerin.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that consider for consideration resolution 85-81-24R.
And clerk, please read the resolution.
A resolution of the Common Council reappointing Kirk Daniels to the Public Education and Government Access Oversight Board.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Ballerin.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this went to our Ad-Hoc committee again on September 30th. This is a reappointment. Mr. Daniels has already been serving on the board. He comes with decades of experience in broadcasting and also experience within PEG. So we were great that he's willing to continue his services. Again, we have another opening where we have 3 candidates that we're going to continue to review and consider. But this was a reappointment, and we moved his name forward for the full body for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussions? Can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes.
Ballerin.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn. Frederick.
Yes.
Hoey.
Yes.
Johnson. Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Romero.
Yes.
12 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Moving on to miscellaneous unfinished business. Mr. Hoey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have the Violence Prevention Task Force resolved that the membership of the Violence Prevention Task Force be reset and the following persons be appointed to the Violence Prevention Task Force, and setting the membership of the body at 15, and waive the reading of the names.
Is there a second on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Any more miscellaneous unfinished business? Ms. Romero.
I just really quick, because I've received a ton of emails about fluoride, and I just want to clarify legally that the decision that came out of the district court in California is what's called non-binding, and it's not even like a persuasive law for us, and that it's in a totally different district and one that does not have legal effect on us here in New York State. I just want to clarify that for some folks, because some of the emails kind of come in a way that makes it seem as if a court case has been rendered and it's legally binding on us, of which it's not.
Thank you. Ms. Kimbrough. Oh, I see your hand. Mr. Anani and then Ms. Keegan, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I just want to say really briefly regarding our police department. You know, day in and day out, we hear about how many officers we're short. And right now is budget season. I hope that, you know, we could think outside of the box to figure out ways that we could get more individuals who want to be police officers. You know, I think we had emergency right now. So I think, you know, if there's ways that, you know, we could be creative with the city's budget as relates to whether it's signing bonus or even lateral movements for bonuses. Just kind of just think out there, because again, you know, some of these officers, they're doing overtime every day, and some of them are out of their control. Morale is down, you know, and now we're hearing that the police chief is leaving. Some of these officers are really, while they're making money financially because of overtime, you know, they're struggling. And I think that right now is budget season. We have to really start thinking outside of the box to figure out ways that we could get more people that want to be police officers and more people signing up. Just more recently, there was an exam that we're giving out, and I believe only 134 people took the exam, which is a historic low for the city of Albany. So, you know, I know we're in budget season. Let's think outside the box. Let's be creative. Let's figure out ways that we can get more officers on our streets to keep our neighborhood safe.
I have a question about the court case that came out regarding fluoride, because my reading of the decision was that they were asking the EPA to essentially reproduce science. Correct? Is my interpretation of that incorrect, Jake? I don't.
So what the court's order was for the EPA to make an additional determination, yes. So it'll be interesting to see whether the EPA abides by that and makes a ruling based on higher levels of fluoride or natural fluoride levels, or if it appeals the decision, which is probably more likely. It's an interesting opinion that has a lot of implications in regulatory law, so I would be very surprised if they didn't appeal just for the implications that it has on the regulatory state.
Okay. That's really, I just thought it was important to have that also on the record because they didn't necessarily shut down the use of fluoride even within the district. They asked the EPA to essentially re-render science.
Right, and that's the other thing, right? Like we were not a party to this. The party was the EPA, and the request of the litigants was that the EPA provide additional guidance. So it wasn't like an order to stop fluoridating. And the decision, the judge himself said that he wasn't saying that fluoride was a health hazard, just that it could potentially pose a risk. So now the question is going to be, there's going to be a lot of administrative questions going forward on how big that risk is, what is the EPA required to do. I think I will certainly update the council when we receive any more guidance from the EPA.
Okay. And then I just wanted to also note Mr. Anane's comments on the police department. I mean, one of the things that we've struggled with as a city is that we have a police department with a significant number of beats that each have to be staffed on every single shift, and a union that is unwilling to negotiate on the reduction of beats, which would in turn reduce the number of required staff, save us millions of dollars in overtime, and allow us to operate within the means of the department that we have. But if we continue to run the number of beats that we have, we will continually be short on officers.
Yep. Good point. Mr. Johnson, and then Mr. Adams first, and then Mr. Johnson, because he had his hand up first.
Thank you. Just 2 points to mention, clarify from comments that were made previously tonight. One of the first being in regards to the cabaret legislation. And just as a point to mention that I think some people, it seems, are maybe under a misunderstanding of the intentions of what we're trying to accomplish with the repeal. Again, this is not solely based to address nightlife. This is to address business, period, throughout the city. Whether it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, nightlife has nothing to do with the intentions behind this, besides creating and changing the legislation to be more business friendly, to support businesses regardless. So for the people who are bringing up or commenting and mentioning the violence or the public safety concerns that they're tying to this, again, these are 2 separate matters that we have to be able to distinguish between, to understand that we can repeal something and put something in place that is better, but we also do not need this to stay on the books that is obviously not benefiting the city. So again, 2 things can be true, 2 things can be done. Myself and Councilmember Flynn are working on crafting and drafting legislation that will hopefully, again, replace what's here, but do it in a way that is clear, more efficient. That way, not only do the members here feel comfortable supporting this and understanding the goal, but the people in the public feel reassured in our decisions and what we're doing here. So just wanted to mention that. The second point to mention is in regards to the water fluoridation. Because, as mentioned, I was the probably sole person who was against this. So as things are coming back out with the reports that have been shared with the council, I say please keep an open mind. There's science on both sides to maybe support each other's position, but because this seems to be a very sensitive and hot topic for many people throughout the city who are and came out to vehemently oppose the fluoridation, they still feel that way. And when we have a large population of people throughout our city, residents who lived here their whole lives, and are raising kids, families here, are saying that they still feel concerned about this decision. Again, I want to say, please, let's slow down the process. There's no rush to necessarily make these decisions right now without having the full confidence of the general public. Not everyone is going to agree with it, but we need to, again, still do our due diligence to show that we are willing and capable of making changes, but also willing to accept new information as it comes in. So there will be a big push to try to get council members and just the general public to understand the importance of that report, but also the concerns that still people have in regards to fluoridation. Went to several neighborhood association meetings where people in those meetings are still asking questions. They're still very much concerned about this. So again, just ask that you keep an open mind, and as people are reaching out to share information with you, that you're open to it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. I've made this point many times. When you hear that we're working at a deficit with the police force, that's from the highest number that we ever had. And growing up, one of the things that was always shared by the adults that was around me is that we were a heavily populated police town. So my wish for the next chief is that they are willing to show council members how cars are dispersed in their neighborhoods so that we can be educated going forward to be able to educate people in said communities, because it's just, not to go any further, but I just wanted to touch on that. It was another point that I wanted to make, but let's allow people to go home and watch this Yankee game that they're dying to get to.
Ms. Frederick.
I'm going to pause that Yankee game for 10 seconds just to round this out, since we had the police come up during miscellaneous. Just a reminder again, we are going over the police department budget tomorrow at 5:30. So if you are available, I'd love if council members can join the finance and we can have a fruitful discussion with the police force. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kimbrough.
Motion to adjourn.
Just a second. All those in favor? Those opposed? Meeting adjourned.